Holy cow, Phoenix Suns fans. So much Phoenix Suns news over the last, 72, 48 hours, however long it's been. I don't know. You guys know me. My name is Suns Geek, and if it has to deal with the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to make a video about it. You guys, I'm sorry I am late to the party on all this Monty Williams news and all the other Sun stuff going on. Just so you guys know, it was recently my birthday, and obviously today is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the great mothers out there. And last night I was out and about just celebrating with the family, having a good time. And then all of a sudden, my phone blows up. Monty Williams was let go. And by the time I wanted to talk about it, whether make a video or go live, I was just drained and exhausted. So I slept on it and I called in some reinforcements. You guys might remember him from the Matt Ishbia press conference and from the Kevin Durant / NBA trade deadline. I am live with ThunderSteve, and before I let him properly introduce himself, he does have a YouTube channel. He is a content creator, ThunderSteve85. He covers everything video games, video game reviews, collectibles, everything Nintendo. Arguably, if not the biggest Nintendo fan I have ever met in my life. Nintendo to PS5, NBA 2K games, and all that fun stuff. Although I have some thoughts about the 2K community as of late. But Steve, one of the biggest Phoenix Suns fans, by the way, that I've ever met in my life. Steve, how you doing, man? Properly introduce yourself. Tell the people where to find you, even though all the links are down below in the description.
Thank you, Brandon, for such a nice, thorough introduction. I do appreciate that. And yes, my name ThunderSteve85. I run a video game channel here on YouTube. And I am a lifelong Suns fan, guys. I am an Arizona native.
Yes, sir.
I've been a Suns fan since the 92-93 season when I was 7 years old. I just celebrated, actually, on May 7th, my 38th birthday. So I've been through it all. Man. Thank you. I have not missed a thing. I truly have not. I've said this before. Even when I was a kid, guys, I was recording Suns games on VHS tapes if I was going to miss it, which was usually for basketball.
Steve, practice. What's a VHS tape? I've never heard of that before.
Well, you used to actually be able to, believe it or not, you could go to like Walgreens back in the day, get like a 10-pack of them. And I would do that at the start of every season. So when I did have to be somewhere, record the game at least, go home and watch it. So yeah, guys, I've seen all the games. I had a short stint in California for work in San Diego and Monterey. And first thing I did was make sure I had NBA League Pass. Yep. And you guys should all appreciate this, but I never switched to a California plate. I kept my Phoenix Suns plate in Cali, custom plate, and I risked getting pulled over every day for the Suns.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for being here, man. Like I said, I've known you for a very long time, and you've always been one of the biggest, if not the biggest Suns fan I've ever met, one of the biggest Nintendo and gaming fans I've ever met. And again, man, thank you for taking time out of your day to help me just process all this and talk about all this. And we're going to dive into some great stuff. We got some great things coming for you guys. And we're not just going to talk all about Monty. There's other Suns things going on, and a certain player who we're probably going to talk about later. I'm sure you guys know who. So yeah, you guys, I'm just going to read you guys some notes real quick, and then we're really going to dive into the juicy stuff here. Obviously, Monty Williams has been fired, the winningest regular season head coach over the last 3 years, which is maybe one reason why some Suns fans were kind of defending Monty Williams, and rightfully so. Had a record of 194 and 115 over 4 seasons. And prior to that, Steve, we went 87 and 241. And obviously the 10-year playoff drought, although we almost made the playoffs in 2013, and everybody forgets that. You obviously know, Steve, 64 and 18, in 2022, we were a dominant team. And then obviously we're embarrassed by the Dallas Mavericks. Just like this year, we were embarrassed in game 6 by the Denver Nuggets, and sort of in game 5 too. I think that might get a little bit overlooked. Yeah. So obviously, Steve, there's a lot to unpack here. We're going to be reacting to some tweets and some videos later. So, Steve, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. What are your thoughts? What are your takeaways? Can you help us process this?
Yeah, I think I can. Guys, I obviously, as Brandon did, I wanted to sleep on it. The news
Yeah.
came fast.
Oh, yeah.
If you were on Twitter and you were following some of the tweets that were out there, you probably had at least an inkling of an idea that there's a chance Monty might not be here next year, which was an unsettling feeling for all of us Suns fans because, Monty means a lot to us. He really helped change and shape the new culture that we have today. And I was thinking about it, and I kind of wrote some notes down about Monty here, and I think he should get, a proper farewell from us Suns fans. Because we all know, like, Monty was a leader. He was a great leader of men. Like, he really helped kind of raise the guys and get him to really kind of grow up and buy into the team concept, which, if you know, or should you know, prior to that, that was not the case prior to Monty coming here. Yeah, I think sometimes you can still complete your job without bringing a championship. And what I mean by
Yes,
that
sir.
is I think Monty did his job, man. Like,
Preach.
he did what he was brought to Phoenix to do. Okay. He got rid of the dark cloud that was hanging over the arena. The rest of the cloud, you could say, left when Sarver went away. But even
Preach.
when Sarver was there, you forgot that, because Monty was like the face of the Suns, which was great. It was Monty and James Jones, but he brought real culture to Phoenix. It was the type of culture that we hadn't seen since, I would say, the beginning of the Nash era, and previous to that, during the Barkley era. So I think many will say that Monty losing his job is a reminder that when it comes to your job, sadly, like, you're only as good as your last game, or you're only
Yeah.
as good as the last day you worked. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I mean, no, but that's life. And yet, we have to say it is what it is.
Right.
So obviously he was coach of the year, voted by the coaches in 2021.
Yep.
And then the following year, the NBA actually gave him coach of the year that time. Even though he probably should have got it both years. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But Monty brought us to the best record in the NBA last year. Best, Suns record for franchise regular season wins. And he really resuscitated a Suns franchise that, to me, was on life support and was only supported by us, the hardcore fans. So
Yes, sir.
he did a lot, man, and he will be missed.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think you did a great job of just summing that up and giving your opening thoughts. And look, I know that sports is obviously bigger than what I don't know how to word this. Like, what I'm trying to say is Monty Williams is a great person. We all know that. I mean, he is well respected around the league, and I haven't met him in person, but the things I've heard about him, he's a stand-up, genuine, caring person. He's a family man, as we all know. But at the end of the day, it's, as you know, and we're going to dive into this, I'm sure, a little bit later. No job is safe in the NBA, especially, like, I'm not a big football guy, but I do know that in the NFL, coaches always go first. And unfortunately, in the NBA, that's how it's especially trending as of late. I mean, we just saw Mike Budenholzer, who beat our Phoenix Suns and led the Bucks to a championship. He got fired. And unless you're Greg Popovich or maybe an Eric Spoelstra, if you will, pretty much no job is safe in the NBA. I mean, look at the Houston Rockets. I know this is a bad example, but Steven Silas and the Rockets, they won like something like 20 games, 19 games.
Yep.
And he got fired. And, it just is what it is. But, you were touching on like the culture and what Monty Williams brought here before we got good, if you will, before we got Chris Paul, before we got KD, even before we got Jay Crowder. You know what I mean? Like, Monty Williams was a big part of the Suns team, and just even just the way he would just talk to the media, and he truly cared about his players. And I feel like sometimes that gets overlooked. And just real quick, reading what James Jones said about the firing, Monty has been Monty has been foundational to our success over the past 4 seasons. We're filled with gratitude for everything Monty has contributed to the Suns and to the Valley community. While it was difficult for me to make this decision, I look forward to continuing the work to build a championship team. And again, we kind of already went over it. Led us to our first final since 1993 and gave us the best regular season in Suns franchise history. And even though it didn't end well, Monty did a lot of incredible things on the court, during practices, and off the court in the community and everything. And speaking of that, Thunder Steve, in a minute here, we're going to react to some videos. Okay. And then we can go over the notes and everything that you had. But I did just want to react to one video real quick. Let me just pull this up here and share my screen. This is just kind of a reminder of how impactful, in my personal opinion, that I think Monty Williams was. And I know you remember this, Steve. This was from the bubble after we won that 8th game and they were waiting to see what was going to happen. I'm sure you remember, I think the Nets were playing, I forgot who they were playing, but the Nets were playing somebody. I think Karis LeVert missed a shot and it ended our season. But real quick, as you can see on my screen, I know you remember this video. This is Monty Williams talking to the team after the Sun, or before the Suns were pretty much eliminated in terms of the bubble. But let's react to this video.
It's just been an unreal ride, right? And we got to go back to the hotel and see what happens. But I want you guys to know this before that happens. Like this was therapeutic for me to be around a group like this. I got to tell you guys, man, I love you. I do. I don't care what happens tonight. I know what I got in this room. It has been cool for me to be with y'all every day, to watch you guys work and battle and gain the respect of your peers the way you have on this trip. We're not the Suns of old. You've been through a lot. And it's hard to play the way you play every single night and not get the respect that you deserve. Guess what? You got it. Okay. So I don't care what happens. God knows I hope we get a chance to keep shocking the world, because that's what you did. Nobody believed we'd come here and go 8-0 and beat the teams we beat. But just know, man, this is special. Okay. I want you guys to know that. I don't care what happens, right? This is special. Don't let anybody take this away from you. You gain the respect of the league. Okay. Now we got to build on it. We may get to build on it this weekend, or it may happen in the summer. We don't control it. Okay. We got to get to the point where we control it. Understand that? You guys understand that? You want to be the kind of team that controls your own destiny. Okay. That's our next step. All right. Love you guys. Bring it in. Family on 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right. So obviously that was a long time ago, even though, it was only 3 years ago, but it feels like a long time ago. Obviously that was a completely different team, completely different circumstances. Obviously the world had changed due to the pandemic. We were in the bubble, all that stuff. But just that video and just some of the things he would say, and I'm sure the players heard that left and right. And that goes back to my point. Monty Williams really cared about his players, man. And even though, some stuff we're going to dive into later, I'm sure there was bumps in the road, just like every family has. But I could tell that even, I don't know what's going to happen with Monty Williams after this. I'm sure he can get another job just like that. But I know he's still going to be close with Booker, still going to be close with Chris Paul and Kevin Durant, some other players. But I don't know, just any takeaways on that. I just wanted to share that video and just kind of get your thoughts, and then we can kind of move on to everything. But what do you think, Steve?
I mean, that right there is like the display of culture that we all talk about.
Yeah.
Like that's a fine example, because sometimes it's hard to pinpoint a moment where you can define the culture that he brought to Phoenix. And that was a prime example right there. Like that message rang true during his time as a Suns head coach. And that's why, for all of us Suns fans, it's tough it's tough today. It's like somebody you've worked with. Like
Yeah.
think about the jobs we've had. You might have somebody that you worked quite a few years with.
Yep.
And they get let go. They didn't leave on their own terms. They got let go, and
Yep.
it kind of leaves some emptiness in your heart. And I think that's how we feel today as Suns fans.
Yeah. And that's the thing, man, is something that I didn't really touch on. You kind of segue perfectly into it is everyone seems to sort of have a different opinion. I think a majority of the opinion is it was the right move, but there are some Suns fans and really basketball people that I've seen that said this wasn't the right move. They should have given him one more year. I'm leaning on the majority. If Suns fans want to hear my thoughts and everything, I'm leaning more on the majority that it was the right move. And I hate to sound cliche here, but it is true. You were eliminated in back-to-back years in embarrassing fashion. That just can't happen, man. And that's why I referenced coaches always go first. And look, I love Monty Williams, man. I wish I could have met him in person. He seems like a great guy. And obviously he is a good coach in this league. He's proven that. But the playoffs are a completely different dog. And unfortunately, he didn't have success. I feel like some Suns fans are sort of a little too harsh on the way we went out in the finals, and I understand that. But let's be real. We overachieved that year, and we got to the freaking finals and won 2 games. Just saying, I'm sorry. I'm picky about that stuff. But Steve, do you want to pull up your notes, man? Because you did some excellent work just talking about the Suns, really a good majority of the Suns coaching history and how this all led to this conversation that we're having today. So I'm going to let Steve pull that up. Again, you guys, if you're watching along live, I appreciate everybody that's in here, by the way. I'm live with ThunderSteve85, and all of his links are down below in the description. He's got a gaming channel. He's a content creator as well. And again, one of the biggest Suns fans that I have ever met in my life. So we're here just talking about the Monty Williams stuff. We're going to be covering some other Suns topics later, some that are being very trending right now and talked about a lot. So, Steve, I got your notes right here. And wherever you want to start, man, whatever you want to cover. Obviously, we're not going to read this entire thing to you because we'd be here for like a while. But yeah, go for it, man. This is your segment here.
Okay. So I guess we can kind of start with, I was talking to Brandon, and if you guys think about it, right about here's when things sort of changed.
Yep.
I was at game 7 last year. I was at game 6 this year.
Oh God.
The thing that I've said, and I'll say it to this day, it'll probably live with me for a long time, but being at game 7 last year, the energy in the arena, just walking around was so heavy. Like you could just feel the negativity. Like people were upset. It felt like I was attending the funeral for the Suns. It was bad, man. And it lived with me, and it still does. And, going to game 6 this year, being down 30 points at halftime, we were down less than 30 points at halftime when we played the Mavs.
Yep.
And I pulled it up when I was in the arena. I'm like, is this happening again? I was with my cousin again. It was the same thing. I was wearing the same jersey that I wore last year, hoping we could basically break the curse. And, sure enough, we got our asses whooped. And obviously the end score, the end score looks a little bit better than what it was. You guys know that. We scored some points at the end there.
And Campaign actually showed up and played.
Yeah. He activated campaign mode. He went nuts. I was so proud of him. And it's funny because as Suns fans, and we all know that that's what we needed. We needed somebody else to help Book and KD, and somebody else did, but Book and KD were just, I don't know, gassed. Obviously, I think Book was probably hurt. You know, he hurt his foot in game 6, but he still played.
Yep.
Kind of sounds like the year before he wasn't 100%, but
DeAndre Ayton had the rib injury and all that.
Yeah, Book's always going to give it a go.
Yep.
But starting from that point last year, obviously a lot happened at game 7, right? We had the Monty and DA debacle. And then, of course, we dealt with the whole Jay Crowder summer thing, whatever that was. And I say whatever that was because I don't think any of us actually know still to this day what happened. From the knowledge I know, Jay was basically told, like, you cannot talk about this at all. Whatever happened, you can't talk about it at all. Like, if you want us to get you traded, you need to cooperate, basically, and not say a word about this. And as we all know, Monty had his classic quote that he used many times, it's internal.
Yep.
So I think it really started right there. And then, we dealt with the rest of this season and everything we dealt with the injuries. Obviously, we plagued with injuries throughout the year, plagued with injuries in the playoffs, CP, DA, so on and so forth. But kind of pause right there, Brandon. Do you feel like that's when it started?
Yeah, a little bit. And just real quick, even if you are a great person like Monty Williams is, you know this, Steve, sometimes voices get tuned out. And Monty was there, since 2018, 19 or 19, whatever it was. It's sometimes coaching philosophies and systems just go out the window. But to answer the question, I do believe the Jay Crowder stuff is when it started. And look, I feel like I've always been a person who looks at things on both sides of the coin. This could have been sort of just a clash of heads and a clash of two different stories. Maybe some of it is to be put on Jay Crowder. Maybe some of it was to be put on Monty Williams. And heck, Robert Sarver was the owner at the time. And I forget if he was suspended or whatever, but he was still the owner. Maybe that had to do something with it. Maybe there was other front office people who were involved. But to answer your question, I think that is when this whole Monty Williams stuff started. And then, spoiler alert, Suns fans, we are going to be talking about the DA stuff later because it sort of ties in to what we're all talking about here.
Thanks for answering that. So I think, guys, to truly appreciate Monty and everything he did, and I think, probably safe to say, Brandon, after we go through this, we'll move on probably to some other topics here because there's a lot to unpack with the Suns right now.
Oh, yeah.
But to appreciate his greatness, what he did for the Suns, you do have to look to the past, and not everyone knows our past. Obviously, I'm Arizona native. I talk Suns all the time, always in Suns gear. So people will approach me, we talk, and there's a lot of fans out there that haven't been a fan as long, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But it's important to kind of know the history to truly appreciate what happened with Monty.
Exactly.
And I kind of get a little rundown here of the highlight. And I'm talking about the last 20 years here. So we're in 2023 now. Back in 2003, we brought in Coach Mike D'Antoni. I think we all unanimously, really enjoyed Mike as a person.
Yeah.
I loved his press conferences. I was funny. He was candid, kept it real.
He was cool, man.
Very cool.
Yep.
Obviously, he played ball too.
Yep. Over in Italy.
Damn good. Damn good. I think he's got some championships, some MVPs over there. So Mike could hoop. He knows the game. He loves it. And obviously, he brought us a 65% winning percentage,
which is
in
incredible.
his time, which is insane.
I mean, I read you Monty Williams' record, 194 to 115. And then look at Mike D'Antoni's record, 253 to 136. 65%.
Insane. And you look at those playoff games, just the amount we played right there.
Yeah.
It was at 77 playoff games, 51%. Obviously, coach of the year. And this is when a lot of the pain started to happen.
Yeah.
2006, right? Lost in the West Finals to the Spurs.
Yeah.
We had home court advantage, almost got swept.
Yep.
2007, lost to
Yeah.
the Spurs again. Mari Boris suspended for game 5. We lost by 3 points in game 5. You guys know if we would have had Amari and Boris, we would have won that game.
Mhm.
And then, of course, referee Tim Donaghy came out, said in his book that they preferred the Suns to lose.
Yep.
And he said in his Netflix documentary. And back in 2007, I said that to everyone. They said, you're crazy. That's a crazy conspiracy. You're just saying that because you're a Suns fan.
Back then, I'm not saying it didn't happen prior. I mean, heck, who knows what would have happened during the 60s, 70s and all that, but this wasn't really like a common thing. It's not like you could hop on social media and be like, oh, Tim Donahue's refereeing the game tonight. We're going to lose. You know what I mean? Like they do with Scott Foster now.
Like Scotty Foster. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, but go on.
You're good. 2008, Steve Kerr trades the Matrix for Shaq at the trade deadline.
The infamous pointing to his finger, Shaq up in the suites.
And it was exciting, right? But
yeah, it was exciting. I will say that.
We fell from number 1 seed to a number 6 seed from that time of the trade. What happened? Lose to the Spurs again, 4-1 in the first round.
Wasn't Shaq like kind of injured a lot too, from my terrible memory?
Yeah,
had some injuries.
He had some injuries for sure. He's getting up there in age. Obviously this was after his tenure in Miami.
It was like a little too late with Shaq, It was
a little too late. And I think obviously the first game of that series, that was when Tim Duncan hit the 3-pointer to, if I recall, force overtime, went into double OT. We lost game 1. And that was pretty much the template for the rest of the series, losing it 4-1. Mike D'Antoni era was exciting because we got to go to the playoffs all the time. We always had a chance to win. Obviously, we had Steve. We had Amari. Amari had some bad injuries. He had, what was it? The orbital fracture.
Yeah.
With his eye, he had the knee surgery. We just went through a lot during that time. But
we had a new cast too. Like, we had Raja Bell, Quentin Richardson, you name it. Like Kurt Thomas.
Line.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe Johnson, Jim Jackson. Don't forget Pat Burke.
I love Pat Burke, man.
Pat Burke was great entertainment, man. Man. Great. But then, after Mike, this is when you really got to start to understand and appreciate.
Real quick, Steve, if you are a younger Suns fan, this is where you really want to start paying attention.
That's right. So we brought in Terry Porter. If you guys know, former NBA player, played on the Portland Trailblazers alongside Clyde Drexler.
Yes, sir.
He had a short stint. He was friends with Robert Sarver.
Don't let that percentage fool you right there.
Don't.
Yeah.
He got the job because he was friends with Sarver. He completely changed our offense. He wanted the Suns to become a defensive team. They focused on hard-nosed defense, even though Terry Porter as a player had a horrible defensive rating. I looked back on this back in the day. I looked again today just to double check. He was fired during NBA All-Star Weekend in 2009 when we actually hosted here All-Star Weekend. I saw you there, Brandon.
Yep. Good times.
Yeah. And we both talked about this back in 2009. Just like felt like there's a dark cloud hanging above the arena.
And again, that coaches getting fired during All-Star Weekend back then probably rarely happened. And even now rarely happens.
Especially when you're hosting the event.
That's insane. That must have been
poor timing.
I wish I was a fly on the wall during that meeting when he got fired.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is like this was Sarver's friend too. It was just very odd. But of course, we failed to make the playoffs. Alvin Gentry takes over as the interim head coach. We had a 46-36 record, 10 games above 500. Barely missed the playoffs. Of course, the story that it always is, Brandon, the West was loaded. If we were in the East, we would have been a 5 seed.
Right. Yeah.
So classic story.
Yep.
Then we enter the Alvin Gentry era.
Yes, sir.
And of course, Alvin Gentry was an assistant coach for Mike D'Antoni. So he knew that offense inside and out. He brought it back.
Yep.
What happened? We went to the playoffs.
Success. Yep.
Yep. We returned to the 7 seconds or less offense. We ended up losing the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, 4-2.
Yep.
I do remember the ESPN preseason predictions predicted us to not even make the playoffs.
Jeez.
So we overachieved as
Yep.
always.
Yep.
But here it is, guys, 2010-11.
Yep. This is where, as you mentioned, this is where the pain begins.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
We missed the playoffs, 40-42 record. Again, went from barely losing in the West Finals to not making the playoffs.
Yep.
Following year, 33-33, shortened NBA season due to lockout. We did not qualify for playoffs. Following year, 2012-13, Alvin leads the Suns to a 13-28 record, guys. 13-28. Let that sink in.
Yep.
Fired and replaced by, once again, one of Robert Sarver's friends, real estate investment partner, if you did not know, and former Detroit Piston Lindsey Hunter instead of Thunder Dan.
The biggest slap in the face, one of the biggest slaps in the face in Suns history.
Horrible.
Yep.
And of course, Robert Sarver, if you guys remember, said the reason he didn't hire Dan was not because he couldn't do the job, but because it was the easy decision. Let that sink in too. Sometimes
repeat that. Can you repeat that for the people?
Yeah, he said the reason he didn't hire Thunder Dan was not because he couldn't do the job, but because it was the easy decision.
That's Could you imagine if Robert Sarver was still our owner now and did something like that and said that? The Suns fan, all of us would explode. Seriously.
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if Sarver had a little bit of jealousy there of Thunder Dan and how much love the community has for him. But so, he wanted to make his own hire and put his stamp on it.
Oh boy.
Probably, get under the shadow of Jerry Colangelo because, of course, we all love Jerry here. So then we hire Hunter. He brings us to a 12-29 record, guys. Okay. 12-29. So he takes over for Alvin, finishes off the season 12-29. Then he gets canned.
Yep.
So Sarver gives both of his boys, Lindsey Hunter and Terry Porter, basically like a half a season, and then fires them.
Yep.
Weird. Then he makes a good move, right, Brandon?
Yes, sir. Jeff Hornacek.
Jeff Hornacek. Jeff, guys, played for the Jazz, obviously the Suns.
Yep.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
A great
Jeff was part of the trade
in his day.
Great shooter. Mm-hmm. And we never wanted to say goodbye to Jeff.
Yeah.
But Jeff had to go in order for us to get Barkley.
Exactly.
So we all understood, but he was the hard one to say goodbye to. Mm-hmm. Jeff did a great job.
He was the big name sort of in that Barkley trade too.
He was, because it was Hornacek, Tim Perry,
and somebody else.
Yeah. But he was the big name for sure. Mm-hmm. He was the headliner of that trade. But Jeff led us to a 48-34 record, guys. 14 games above 500.
Yep.
And again, we failed to miss the playoffs because the West is super loaded.
And Suns fans, let me tell you, that was an incredible season. And just so you know, if you guys are new to this channel, maybe you've been watching me for a little bit now, that's when I actually started doing this YouTube stuff. Obviously, the videos and the shows and the quality were a lot different back then, but that was an incredible season. Gerald Green should have probably won Most Improved Player that year. Goran Dragic was incredible. Miles Plumlee, I could go on and on. Yeah. The vibes were different, and the Suns fans seemed excited. And 48 games, Steve. 48. Nowadays, you're at least, a 6 seed maybe in today's NBA if you get 48 wins? At
least.
That was an incredible. And even though you're going to go over it in a minute, the 2014-15 Suns had a little bit of that vibe. A little bit. Obviously, it wasn't as good, but still, they won a few games.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, if we were in the East again, I looked this up today, guys, double check. We would have been the number 4 seed in the East. Okay. So Suns actually made NBA history, oddly, funny enough, sadly enough, that season by becoming the new title holder of the team with best record to not make the playoffs. So we actually hold that record, if you guys didn't know. Best record in the NBA to not make the playoffs. Very sad. So we claimed the number 9 seed, and of course Dallas was the team that we were trying to get ahead, and they finished 1 game ahead of us. Okay, so that was Jeff's first year. It was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Next year, that was good. He leads the Suns to 39-43 record. We're the number 10 seed. This is where the Warriors' reign begins.
Yep.
They had 67 wins that
I
year,
remember
guys.
there was some stuff with Gerald Green too, and Jeff Hornacek bumping heads, and I'm sure one of the Morris twins and all
Markeith.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
That was
absolutely.
That was pretty bad.
Then we had Jeff for a little bit. He led the Suns to 14-35 record to start this season.
You start like that, you're already talking about being in the lottery.
Oh, yeah. He's replaced by Earl Watson.
Oh, boy.
Again, dark cloud starts to appear over the Suns, just with how Jeff Hornacek was disrespected. The team disrespected him in huddles. You could see it on TV, guys, if you were watching the games. It was not a good feeling, not a good look for Phoenix. And, you know, it's important to have a good look because it's very, very few times back in the day, maybe once or twice, that we would be on national TV.
Yeah.
And then to display that on national TV, who wants to come here?
Exactly.
Right? So it was just a bad look.
And if you're one of the worst teams in the league, you want to at least sort of have a good rep, you know, like, oh, they got some kids over there and they're looking good. They got a bright future and they got a decent head coach, you know, but you don't want to look the way we did, man.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And so we enter the Earl Watson, the short Earl Watson era.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He took over for Hornacek, led the Suns to a pitiful 9-24 record to close out the season. He got another chance the next year. We go 24-58. And guys, this is the highlight right here. The
My
Dragon
boy Bender
era begins.
I should have put his jersey up somewhere back here. It's my boy right there, man.
Yeah, we draft Bender. We get the number 4 pick. We trade the rights of Bogdan Bogdanovic for Marquise Chris.
Sort of a lose-lose in our situation.
And then look, guys, look. Then we had Jay Triano. Then we had Igor Kokoskov.
Yep.
He tried to bring in his own offense.
Yep.
He told Sarver to draft Luka.
Yep.
He told him why he didn't. Sarver drafted DA. Sarver went to U of A. Obviously, DA. We got him from U of A. And this is how bad it was, guys. Our big free agent signing was Trevor Ariza. Trevor freaking Ariza, guys.
Yeah.
And we go 19-63. Igor's fired. Enter Monty Williams, guys. So
yep, and the rest is
that's
pretty
what
much
Monty
history.
did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great
hellish.
Yeah. That's what, 15 years ish, close to that, of Suns history in terms of coaching. And Steve, you did an excellent job there. I'm going to let you take a breath for a minute because that was some great research, great history right there. And you worded, I'm paraphrasing what you said here, but you worded something. You're like, to really understand this Monty Williams situation, to where the Suns are now, you have to kind of go back to the past. And I'm not saying Suns fans need to be like you and I and know who Dick Van Arsdale is and know who this player is and this coach and all that, but at least pay attention to maybe the 2008 year all the way up to now. You know, that's kind of when it all began, and especially at least the last 10 years. At least go back to 2010 and do some homework, Suns fans. But yeah, and look, you've given your opinion on the Monty Williams situation. I've given mine. I just think overall it was time. I just think due to the embarrassing playoff exits, it's time. And look, your guess is as good as mine, Steve, on who we're going to hire. I have no clue. I just know that Ty Lue's name has been thrown around, but he's still under contract. Mike Budenholzer obviously just got recently fired. we'll have to see about that. Just real quick, Suns fans, just want to share some tweets. Obviously, I can't screen cap every single great tweet and every single great part, like a tidbit of a story. But real quick, this was from when this was actually this morning, excuse me. So Chris Haynes does report the Suns are formulating a list. That doesn't mean these guys are all going to be hired. They are formulating a list of head coaching candidates that include assistant coach Kevin Young, Mike Budenholzer, Nick Nurse, and then as you referenced, Steve, Dwayne Rankin from the Arizona Republic, mentioned maybe Willie Green's name could be thrown in there. Who knows? This is just what happens. These are just rumors, reports of coaches that might be available. Again, going over the list, Kevin Young, Mike Budenholzer, Nick Nurse. I'll throw Willie Green in there, probably a guy we're not thinking of. And then real quick, this tweet came from Woj immediately after Monty Williams was fired. And we'll talk about this later, but new owner Matt Ishbia made the decision to fire Monty Williams. That's a whole conversation in itself. Who has been the winningest coach in the NBA since 2021. Suns have a starry but top-heavy roster with little cap flexibility. The Suns will complete an in-coaching marketplace with Milwaukee and Toronto now. And then just a Shams tweet real quick. Kind of just says the same thing. Matt Ishbia and James Jones will begin an aggressive offseason, solely focused on a championship. Yada, 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 yada. And then real quick, this actually happened before Monty Williams was fired. This was May 12th at 10:57 my time, Steve, in what could be the start of many changes for the Phoenix Suns. The team dismissed a front office executive and 2 scouts today, league sources tell NBA on TNT and Bleacher Report. And Steve, you and I kind of joked around. It's firing the 2 scouts. I mean, I don't wish anybody to lose their job, but firing the 2 scouts was probably a good idea because we don't scout anyways. We don't draft anyways. So that's probably the smart decision. I don't know who that front office executive guy was. And again, I don't wish for anybody to lose their job. That probably was the right decision. Any thoughts on anything that was tweeted just now? And then we can maybe touch on the Matt Ishbia stuff. We're going to talk about who later. Any thoughts on any of that?
Well, as far as the head coaches that were named, there's also did we mention Ty Lue?
Yeah, I sort of touched on the Ty Lue stuff. I think he's still under contract though, so wouldn't he have to finish out his contract first?
You see, then that's what I am trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
Is his availability. I don't know what kind of agreement he has in place.
Right.
But I have heard more than once that Ty Lue could be an option for the Suns.
Yeah.
Which would, to me, be very interesting because obviously we've seen, his coaching very closely in the series that we have with the Clippers. And he was amazing, right?
And maybe his name being tossed around is not a coincidence, Steve?
I don't think it is. I really don't. I wouldn't be surprised if he's available, if he can be available,
right?
If he's the top choice. I would not be surprised if he is.
Yeah.
He's he's a player's coach too. He played in the league. That's important. Guys, respect that.
Don't forget what he did with the Cavs too, man. I mean, sure, that was all LeBron and all them, but I mean, he was the coach of that. And that's not like every day you come back from 3-1 and win Cleveland at the time, their first championship. So,
yeah, that's a great point.
Gotta mean something.
Absolutely. So it's interesting as far as who's available. Nick Nurse, I thought he kind of took a Raptors team that I feel like they overachieved when they won the championship. Obviously they had Kawhi, but they weren't the favorites, right, to win it. And since then, he's proven that he's taken teams that on paper aren't amazing,
right,
and gotten them places probably further than they should have went. I like that. I like that aspect a lot. I'd rather have a coach like that can, overachieve with his roster, much like Ty Lue's done.
Exactly.
Yeah. Obviously, on paper, the roster is great, but the guys over there in Clipperland, they don't play. They don't play all the time. obviously, whether it be injury or whether it be to prevent injury.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, as far as the guys that we let go, again, I share the same sentiment as you. I don't want to see anybody lose their job. But guys, if you look at who we've drafted, sans Booker in 2015.
Yep.
If you look
Everyone
at
is
who we
now
drafted,
gone.
guys,
Yeah, they're gone. Some of
they're
them are
gone.
out of the league.
Most are.
Yeah.
Most are. I don't know who's still in the league. I was looking at it. There's very few that are
Ulyss
still in the
fell
league.
off the face of the earth, by the way. I want to assume Marquise Chris is probably overseas, and I know Dragan Bender for sure is. Who else? Like,
oh, Josh Jackson.
yeah, Josh Jackson. Oh my God.
He's
you and I could have a whole hour on Josh Jackson.
that guy, yeah.
I'm trying to think of the other picks that we had. I don't even know, man. Just so, and maybe some of these guys are in the G League, but the point is, these picks did not land. Devin Booker was the only pick, and that was in 2015. I'm sure we've had lots of scouts come and go since then. And I have made videos about this, and I have been sort of frustrated with the way that James Jones goes about scouting. That's kind of one of my only gripes with James Jones, is the way he goes about scouting. And James Jones has pretty much said, like, yeah, we don't scout. We're not too focused on that. We don't have a big draft board and all that. And I get it. You know, you got Chris Paul, went to the finals, you got Kevin Durant now. I get it. But maybe the Suns should be focused down the road. Maybe we should start trading for some like future picks, you know? But
yeah,
I just think scouting shouldn't be our focus of conversation right now. Although you might want to have a few project players waiting in the wings. Just saying.
yeah.
I don't really know where I was
Golden
going
State
with
did
all
with
that.
some of theirs.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't really know where I was going with all that, but yeah, James Jones and scouting. Okay, Steve. So here's what we're going to do real quick. I just want to, okay, first off, you guys know my respect, and I'm sure your respect too, Steve, for Flex from Jersey.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, does he have to continue to prove himself? Because he was on it with Chris Paul before anybody was. He was on it about Kevin Durant months before anybody was. This guy, I like to call him our Suns insider. So real quick, I'm not going to bore you guys with all the Flex tweets because he's been tweeting like crazy. I just want to share with you some recent tweets, and then we'll move on to our next subject, Steve. Maybe we can talk about the Matt Ishbia stuff. We'll talk about you know who later.
Yeah. So
this came about 18 hours ago after. Let me just fix the camera too so that people can see these tweets. This came right after Monty Williams was fired. He said, and there you have it. The Suns and Monty Williams part ways. This was not a surprise. I'm going to highlight this if I can. I was told by multiple sources both sides were heading in different directions. A new era of Suns basketball is coming, and Matt Ishbia is going to be extremely aggressive going forward. Then he also tweets, this move was a clear sign. This move was a clear sign that this new Suns ownership group knows what it wants and isn't afraid to make changes regardless of financials. Again, I think this is all about maximizing the KD and Booker window, and the new head coach will be somebody who clearly understands that. Let me reread this last part. I think this is all about maximizing the KD and Booker window, and that the new head coach will be somebody who clearly understands that. And then he tweeted out, this was another thing to understand is that this job is opening, this job is going to be on the very top of every coach available on coaches list right now. This is a dream job with a destination franchise who happens to have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant for at least 3 more years. No more shortage of interest. Then he talks about Ty Lue. That's his tweet. And again, follow Flex because I'm scrolling down right now. He's been tweeting like a mad dog lately. He's been tweeting like crazy. And I just wanted to share those tweets for anybody who cares what Flex has been saying. Again, I consider him a Suns insider. So Steve, we've sort of have been avoiding it, if you will. And I'm going to get a little personal here. I'm not trying to get canceled by Suns fans here. I think some Suns fans are overreacting to how Matt Ishbia has gone about things, especially in the last 24 hours. Because you saw the report that, Matt Ishbia is taking over full control. And obviously, Suns fans are going to panic. Twitter's very toxic. Not saying that I don't contribute to any of the toxic stuff on Twitter, but Suns fans are freaking the hell out. And the way I look at it, Steve, isn't this sort of what some Suns fans have wanted? Keyword, some, not all. I mean, didn't we give Robert Sarver a bunch of shit for never doing anything? And now we actually get an owner who actually is doing stuff, not just on the court. Even though it's tied up in a legal battle, he's doing that whole, Arizona family, with broadcasting the games and all that. This guy's giving out playoff t-shirts. This guy's sitting courtside and is engaging with the community and just all this great stuff. I'm not saying every decision he's going to do going forward I'm going to be happy with, but he's taking control, Steve. And as Flex sort of mentioned, James Jones, Matt Ishbia are going to put a roster, hopefully together, built around KD and Booker. And hopefully, Steve, we're going to get a coach who, it's not just about the adjustments during the playoffs, who can get a coach who can put a new system in, a new philosophy. I barely use that word, but philosophy and culture. We talked about culture earlier around Kevin Durant, around Devin Booker, maybe around DeAndre Ayton, and whoever else we can bring in, Steve. So what I'm trying to say here is we got an owner who's taking control. We're going to have to see if that's a good or a bad thing. Calm down, Suns fans. It's not like Matt Ishbia's here to burn everything to the ground, because the way I look at it, he doesn't want to do that, man. This guy is here and he is a Valley. He has embraced the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury. And I think he's doing some great things. And Matt Ishbia has said this, Steve, and I'm pretty much quoting him here. He said that at the end of the day, he's just a fan. And he is the, what's the word, steward or whatever?
Steward.
Yeah, the steward of the Phoenix Suns. And yeah, he's going to make some decisions here and there. Doesn't mean it's going to be all bad. We got to think about this as positively as we can, because obviously right now there's a lot of negativity going on. So I know that there's a lot to unpack there. Do you want to touch on the Matt Ishbia stuff? Am I overreacting? Am I talking crazy here, Steve? Like, you tell me, man.
I mean, I'll be honest, guys. Like, I don't see any bad decisions that have been made thus far. We can't say one way or another at this point if the McHale and Cam trade, along with the draft pick, and we could throw in Jay Crowder there, even though he wasn't with the team, if we want to count that. But, for KD and the expiring contract of TJ Warren. Guys, we won't know how that's going to pan out for a while.
And we're talking years.
Because if we get a championship, say next year, following, whatever, it's going to be worth it. Because, we've never had one, obviously.
The last 10 years of pain will be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as far as McHale goes and the production he did over in Brooklyn, guys, you got to remember, the coach basically ran the same plays for McHale over with Brooklyn. So he slid right into KD's role, being the main piece of the offense. So McHale's usage rate went up drastically. Was he going to have that opportunity here? No, he wasn't. So this kind of stuff happens. And all I can say is keep being happy for him, like all of us are. Because I know we all still follow McHale and Cam. We're very happy for them. We want them to do good. They're great kids. But, you can look at that with Matt. I love what he did with getting the Suns, or is going to be getting the Suns on Channel 3. They're going to have an app so we can watch the games. Anyone who knows it's been a real pain trying to get the Suns games, because
even NBA players have had trouble watching games. NBA
players. It's been
sorry
horrible.
to interrupt.
You're good, but Sinclair Sports, which you guys know, Sinclair owned Fox Sports Arizona, then it turned into Bally Sports, and Sinclair's been terrible to work with.
Yeah.
YouTube TV, I used to have that.
Yeah.
I live up in the mountains. I can't get Cox to run wire here.
Oh, yeah.
So I have slim choices. So I got YouTube TV. I had Fox Sports, then it went away because they were in a dispute with Sinclair.
Right.
Then Hulu, then Dish Network, then it left Dish Network. Then I got DirecTV streaming. So 4 different providers, right? It's been a total pain. So what Matt's doing to get it for free?
Yeah.
Because for me, I don't watch anything else. I don't watch TV. There's a lot of crap on TV. I'm just going to say the truth. I don't watch it.
Yeah.
I watched my Suns. I have the expensive package to watch the Suns. So I thought that was huge. I know it's in court right now, but Matt even said he knew it was going to go to court.
Yeah.
And from what I can gather, Brandon, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but Sinclair or Bally Sports, which is like the Diamond Sports Group, they have like the first right of rescission to make an offer, not to make an offer, but to match.
Yeah, match the offer.
It's like, great. If you want to give it away for free, that's the offer.
Yep.
So you can match it.
Yeah.
So this going to court is honestly not a big deal. It's like, well, sure, you can match it if you want. You can give it to everyone for free.
This is definitely an ongoing story too. I mean, we're probably going to hear more details and reports about this.
Yeah.
Later.
So don't cancel, your cable yet. I'm ready to as soon as as soon as everything's ready to go.
Yeah,
I'll be canceling that. So I think Matt's made good moves, guys. Like he's taking control. He's taking the reins. He knows hoops. He plays ball. He played ball.
Exactly. I just think Suns fans need to just chill, try to bring some positivity, try to bring some hope. That's me, obviously, wishful thinking there. Steve, we're almost an hour in, and there's one more big topic I want to get your thoughts on. I don't want to keep you all day, but do you just want to kind of put a bow on this Monty Williams stuff? And I'm sure we'll probably be talking about Matt Ishbia a lot during the off season, especially next time we get you on here. But any final thoughts just on Monty Williams, Matt Ishbia, everything that we've witnessed these past week or so, the playoffs, how we ended the season, maybe your thoughts on the season as a whole. I don't know, just any of your thoughts before we move on to who.
Yeah. Let's summarize, guys. We all appreciate what Monty did. No one's questioning Monty as a man.
Yeah.
And what he brought to the Phoenix Suns and the job that he did to me. I think it's mission accomplished for Monty. He did what we asked him to do, which was come in here, change the culture. He made Phoenix a destination.
Get us a winning record.
Yeah, without Monty, you think Chris Paul and Kevin Durant are going to want to come over here? No.
Yeah.
Like he really helped change and shape the culture to what it is today. If I'm Monty Williams, I don't know. Are you going to go out and get a job right now? Are you going to take a break?
Probably
I know his kid is working on getting drafted, or not drafted, but selecting a college, right?
Yeah. He's got a couple daughters, I believe, too. Like they're growing up. He's probably wants some family time, man.
Yeah. And guys, he's getting paid still.
Yeah.
He's getting paid out that contract.
Dude, I'd be in overseas or whatever, traveling.
Yeah, gone fishing. He's probably fishing, man.
Maybe he'll have time to clear his head and then, interview for a job and say, this is what I want to bring to a team now. Cause I've been there and done that.
Yeah. And you got to look at that too. Like with Budenholzer, I don't know if he is going to even, obviously that's just a name thrown out there, but
it's all rumors and speculation.
I mean, if you're Budenholzer, do you want to coach right now? Like your brother just died. His brother passed away during that series. His head wasn't there. Understandably so.
Yeah.
So if I'm Budenholzer, I might be taking a break for a little while. Nick Nurse, I could see Nick getting back into it.
Yeah.
I could. And Ty Lue. So I think those are names to watch for. And obviously Willie. I don't know Willie Green's contract stuff either. I don't know if
I can Google it real quick. Not that Google always has all the answers.
But again, guys, these are names that are being thrown out there on social media by, you could say, Suns insiders, the Suns beat writer.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder, okay, well, why is their name being thrown out there? Why is Ty Lue being thrown out? Is he obtainable? Is Willie obtainable?
Can't find anything on Willie's contract, but his
yeah, I like that comment. That's good. Jan Paul's comment there.
Hold on.
But I agree. Monty and Bud are very similar.
Coach Bud is the white Monty. No thanks.
Yeah.
Guys, we don't know. I mean, coaches can bring their own philosophies and styles to a new team and maybe just go in a completely different direction. And heck, again, I know that a lot of people don't want Mike Budenholzer, or maybe they do. At least he brought Milwaukee a championship. Just saying. Ooh, and Steve, you and I were talking about this before. For those hardcore Suns fans that might remember, he was in the running a long time ago to be the Suns coach, and rightfully so. Smart decision. He didn't accept the job, but for a minute, he looked like he might have been our coach. Yeah. So, but I think you did a good job of breaking that all down, giving your thoughts on all this. And again, Steve, seriously, thank you for your hard work, especially on the notes and that Suns history.
Yeah.
I had flashbacks when you were talking about all that great stuff. And again, Suns fans, if you're a younger Suns fan, that's great. We're glad to have you. Do your homework, at least on the last 10 years, Suns fans, because it led us all to where we are right now. So, Steve, this is sort of an elephant in the room moment here. And I feel like we're going to touch on this and we'll probably wrap up the show because I want to go enjoy the rest of my Sunday. I'm sure you do too. I know you want to play some Zelda and all that later.
Oh, yeah.
Which we'll talk about that later. But Steve, we got to talk about DeAndre Ayton. Oh boy, where do we begin? And we don't have to spend too much time on this. We'll have all off season to do that, man. But I want to react to a video first and just kind of get your thoughts on Ayton, the way that he ended the season, all that stuff. But let's react to this 30-second video on DeAndre Ayton right here. And this was from the exit interviews, everybody. So this is just a recent interview. And here is what DeAndre Ayton, some of the stuff he had to say at the end of the season. Let's listen to this.
Man, I love Phoenix, man. Honestly, I'm gonna continue playing hard for Phoenix. I'm gonna keep repping Phoenix like I always been repping Phoenix, and yeah, that's about it. I don't listen to the outside noise either. I'm here, I'm happy, and we didn't finish off the season the way we wanted to, but it's always next year. And this summer is just more work. We just got to do a little bit more work, and NBA teams are getting smarter and tougher. It's harder to win in the NBA, so there's a lot to focus on this summer, man.
So again, that was like a 30-second video. He said some other stuff and all that. That was kind of the big takeaway. Real quick, I actually do agree with something that he said about NBA teams are getting smarter and harder to play. He's 110% right. Steve, you've watched basketball for years like I have. You can lose to the worst teams in the league on any night. It happens, especially nowadays, man. Holy cow, nowadays. So Steve, just any thoughts on Ayton, man? You know me, I'm his biggest critic, but I'm also one of his biggest believers. I want to see him succeed. I want to see him give 110% effort every night because we've seen the Suns are a completely different team when he's engaged and focused. We saw him dominate most of that 2021, playoff finals run. We've seen him have big games. He won Player of the Week like a while back. We've seen him at his best, but especially, in game 3, we saw him at his worst. We've seen him, clash with Monty Williams a bit. We've seen him clash, with certain bench sequences, like with the Chris Paul thing, which I'll admit I sort of overreacted to that too. But not just that. I've always had a theory him and Booker don't like each other. Maybe on the court they do, obviously, but I think outside they don't like each other. That's just my thought, my theory, if you will. So any thoughts on Ayton, man? Any thoughts on his comments to end the season? What do you think, man?
I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I don't know if they're friends off the court.
I don't think they are.
I know Book rides him.
Yeah.
And we know why.
Yeah.
And Do you think Book wants to? No, he doesn't want to have to do that. He doesn't want to have to manage a player on his team that's getting paid a max contract. That's just another job that Booker's had to pick up. Like being point book. It's just another thing to add to his plate. So I don't think he wants to do that. It's just something he's had to do. Like if we're going to unlock DA, you got to ride him. You got to coach him. CP's doing the same thing. CP rides
I'm sure
him
on a
all the
daily
time.
basis.
Yeah. Do I want to see DA do great things in a Suns uniform? Hell yeah, absolutely. We all do. Obviously we know it's the engagement, it's the hustle. Obviously sometimes he looks a little aloof out there on the court. And if we can change that, if he can change that, obviously he would be huge for us. Right now, to me, DA is being asked to do a small job. Okay. He can do more. But because it's a small job, his engagement level to me is a little low. Like he needs to get the energy from the basketball, touching the ball and being involved in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
For some players, when you're involved offensively, you will improve on the defensive end because there's more engagement, right? And with DA, we're really not calling any plays for him.
Yeah.
What we want him to do is be a Kevin Looney type player, a guy who, hey, if we miss, get the offensive rebound on the putback.
Yep.
Because you're incredibly athletic, dude, and you can totally do this.
And he can hit those mid-range shots. I've always given him credit with that. That mid-range shot is there. He just needs to get consistent, not so hesitant with it.
Remember, he shot threes.
Yep.
When he played for U of A. But this is not what Monty has asked him to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I wondered now, okay? Because there was a report, as we know, that came out. I don't know, Brandon, was it ESPN right after the game?
Yeah.
That
I think I have a screen cap of that. Yeah.
Was it? He'd be happy with a fresh start somewhere.
Yeah. I'm going to pull it up right now as you're talking about it. Yeah.
So he said he'd be happy with a fresh start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next day, it's locker clean out day. Yeah. Media's there. And we got the video that you showed last, Brandon, where he said he loves Phoenix. He wants to stay here. So it was kind of a little bit of a 180, right? Like, what? Yeah. Wait, you said last night there's a report that you would like a fresh start.
Here's the the post real quick. Sources told ESPN that Ayton's teammates have shared their coach's frustration with what they perceive to be inconsistent effort and aggression from the 7-footer. Ayton would be excited about a fresh start with another franchise, sources told ESPN. The Suns are expected to aggressively explore the trade market for him this summer. Real quick, Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt you. This just goes back to, it's hard to really believe sometimes ESPN, not saying they're always wrong, but we're hearing different reports. DA's saying some different things. I don't know who to believe, man. Go on.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think kind of my take, guys, is two things. I think it could be one of two things with why this happened and the way it happened. One, I think when that report hit, I wouldn't be surprised if James Jones, maybe Ishbia, reached out to DA's agent and said, hey, tell him to shut the F up, dude. You want to get traded? Don't talk like that.
Yep.
Because as soon as you do that, your trade value drops and we don't have leverage. Preach. We're going to turn into another Jay Crowder situation. Clearly, you didn't learn anything from it, right? Yeah. Like he's your own teammate. You saw him fold in front of you.
Yeah.
And we lost leverage. And that's why we waited all season before we pulled the trigger on Jay, because we didn't have any leverage there.
Which thank God we did. Because even me at one point, I was saying, how the hell have we not traded Jay Crowder yet? Why aren't we trading Jay Crowder?
Yep.
So, yeah.
So you look at it, that could be why there is the complete 180, or flip it around a little bit. Maybe that came out and then James Jones or Ishbia reaches out to DA's agent and says, hey, we know you're not happy because of your role that Monty's given you with the Suns.
Yeah.
What if maybe they let him in and let him know, like, hey, Monty's not going to be here next year. We're going to have a different coach.
Yeah.
The coach we have, we're going to tell him, like, we're going to be interviewing guys that are going to figure out how to include you and unlock you in the offense. If that's the case, would you be wanting to stay, or do you still want us to explore a trade? If so, again, you need to not
You gotta
speak
show up.
about it to the media, especially
Mhm.
ESPN, dude, because then we'll lose all leverage and you will be here
Yep.
until we find a trade that's fair for us.
Yeah.
So I got to imagine, Brandon, it was something to that effect that happened right there. So I'm still wondering now, I'm sure you are too.
Mhm.
Does he really want to be here? I think he does if he's part of the offense.
And look, man, you know this because of your job history and, all that stuff. Sometimes just employees showing up and putting in a day's worth of work shows a lot. And Ayton's been very inconsistent with that. That's why I'm saying, does DeAndre Ayton want to play for the Phoenix Suns? I don't know. And actions speak louder than words, Steve, because we saw the video. Oh, I love playing for Phoenix. I'm going to continue to play hard for Phoenix. Cool, man. Well, you got to go on the court and actually prove it. And again, I'm not saying he's not working his ass off in practice. I'm sure he is. But the biggest frustration with Ayton since really day one is we all know he can be better. I'm not trying to put unrealistic expectations on him. I'm not expecting him to be the next Wilt Chamberlain or heck, Joel Embiid. But we all know he can at least scratch the surface of that. If he was doing some of the things Joel Embiid was doing, holy cow, man, we'd be having a completely different conversation. So again, I don't really know if that answers your question or sticks on topic, but he's one of the most frustrating Phoenix Suns players of all time. And this isn't really his fault, but it's just frustrating because he was the number 1 overall pick. You know what I mean? And sure, there's the Luka stuff. I'm not even going to touch on that, but he was the number 1 overall pick. What we talk about Booker, we talk about KD, and we used to talk. It was Booker and CP3. That was it was Booker, Paul, and Ayton were our big 3. Now it's like, oh, it's just Booker and KD and whoever else wants to show up. We should be talking, man, we have a big 3 with with Booker, KD, and Ayton. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where I was going.
I think too, if I'm the Suns, like, I think DA, it would do him well to kind of transform his body a little bit in the off season, guys. And I'm not saying he needs to go from skinny Orlando Magic Shaq.
He has lost weight. I will give him that. He has lost a little weight. Yeah,
he has, but I don't need him to go from skinny Shaq to bulked up Shaq.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm being realistic. There's only one Shaq, right? Yeah. But let me give you a comp. Think about Lonzo Mourning when he was playing for the Hornets. Okay.
Yep.
They have very, very similar body types. If you look at it, you saw what Zoe did when he went to Miami. He bulked up, dude.
Yep.
He got big. I think that would really benefit DA. Maybe if he does that, he's not out with a rib contusion.
Real quick, Lonzo Mourning is one of the more overlooked centers because he played in a dominant era, in the 90s with some of the greatest centers of all time. And he's sort of an underrated part of that Miami Heat championship team, by the way.
He's a big part of the culture, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's worked for him ever since as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
But I think you try, and if I'm the Suns, I'm like, hey, dude, if you want to stay or you want to be here, like, you got to work all summer too. You got to work on your body, put on some muscle, man.
Yep.
Because the NBA is getting tougher and we can't afford to have our anchor pushed around.
Yeah.
And he was pushed around by Jokic.
Yeah. I was going to say, you're not going to stop Jokic, but there could have been a lot more with Ayton there,
Yeah.
Maybe a few more blocks here and there. I don't know.
Right. And if you got some more weight and muscle under your belt, you may not get pushed around.
Or, maybe a second jump, like a pogo stick badge in 2K.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Follow your shot. But things like that, he's got the ability. He's got the talent that he's gifted with to be able to run circles.
Yeah.
Should be around someone like Jokic. He should be able to beat him in a sprint down court every time.
Oh God, that's so frustrating.
He
when
doesn't.
does that. Just
You know?
jogs down court lightly. It's like you're getting out hustled by a dude who is, you know, with all due respect, fatter, bigger than you. You know?
Exactly. So you know what? You can stay in shape. Just put on muscle, man.
Yeah. And
so
you know what?
It'd be helpful.
Real quick, shout out to John from the Suns Jam Session podcast. They're friends of the channel. They're great guys. John kind of makes a good point here, man. He can't transform his mentality. However, there lies the problem. He would rather take fadeaways than fight through physical contact. Key word in all this, Steve, mentality. We've seen it. I've questioned it. I'm sure you've questioned it. I've made videos about it. It's his mentality, man. Again, I just said it. You're getting out hustled by Nikola Jokic just running down the court. And I get it. Guarding Nikola Jokic is probably terrifying. Guarding Joel Embiid is probably terrifying. But holy cow, man, if you're not in it from like we witnessed in game 3, that was one of the worst Ayton games I have ever seen. You know what I mean? And you and I have both seen pretty much every game DeAndre Ayton's played in. It's all about mentality, man.
I agree. And I'm looking at the comments, Brandon. Liz here brought up a great comment. It's funny. I actually kind of mentioned something
the ranch
similar.
One?
Yeah, it's my brother. I said, you know what? He needs to go work on the ranch with Tom Chambers. Go work on his ranch. Yeah. Tom works his ranch every day. Did you know that, right?
Yeah.
Like full-time job, 8 hours. Go work on the ranch with TC. Yep. I guarantee you'll come back stronger.
You'll lose like 10 pounds in one day too.
Yeah, out there in the heat, especially during the summer. But you know, I agree. As far as the mentality goes, that's got to come from within.
Yeah.
He's got to find that within himself. I don't know if he can. Yeah. None of us know. Yep. We all hope that he can. You know, we all want him to attack the rim like Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah. Right? Could you imagine, Steve? We've seen a couple of those Amari-esque
glimpses
dunks,
of it.
But yes. I don't think I've ever seen him like viciously dunk on somebody. I mean, there's been a couple, but not the way Amari did it with that grace and what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he attacked the rim. I mean, with like sometimes reckless abandonment, not as reckless as like a Ja Morant. It looks like he's going to get hurt every
Elevates time. And detonates, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Tom Leander, yeah. If we had that from DA, my God.
Good God. We would be unbeatable. We'd probably be in the finals. Let's be real.
Oh, no doubt.
Jeez Louise. Even if KD was still struggling, but we had a dominant Ayton. Oh, my God, bro.
I still remember when Amari was putting up, I think he averaged, was it 38 points a game against Tim Duncan in that playoff series? You remember that? He was just...
Look what Devin Booker did this year. Amari Stoudemire did that. It's
insane, especially for not being the number one guy on your team like Booker is. You know, we had Nash, we had Marion, we had Joe Johnson, so many other guys. Q.
Real quick, Steve. I know our conversation's jumping all over the place, but I'll never forget. Amari Stoudemire had a block once. I think it was on Tim Duncan, where his hand was like in the rim, and he just went boop. Yeah. His hand was like connected to the rim. He just got, that was one of the greatest blocks I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It was like when LeBron blocked Thiago Splitter, I believe. That was also another great block. But that Amari, his hand was like stuck in the rim. Dude, I don't know, but we'll have to see, Steve. I don't know.
What we need from DA.
Yeah. You know, and again, I think the mentality is a big word with Ayton, and we're going to have to see on all of this stuff. I mean, tomorrow, Steve, we could have a whole new update on the Suns coaching situation. Tomorrow, we could have a whole new update on what Matt Ishbia is going to be doing. And we'll have to see with Ayton, man. But as I know this, Steve, Ayton's still under contract. Kevin Durant's still here for 3 years. Devin, you know Booker's not going anywhere.
Huh.
We'll have to see about Chris Paul. He's still under half guaranteed, $15 million, by the way, Suns fans. He's still technically under contract. And we'll have to see what this roster looks like. Obviously, we know that depth is very important. Ayton has never had an Ola Candy moment.
The Marbury to Amari. And
Exactly.
Marbury's the look on Marbury's face.
You know what? I don't mean to salt the wound. Maybe Ayton needs to get dunked on like that to maybe wake him up a little bit. You know what I mean? Just saying. I don't know.
Something, man. He needs something.
Yeah. I don't know.
We don't know what he needs, but hopefully that's part of what we're doing in our coaching search, or it's not. And we're planning on trading him, right?
Yeah.
It's one or the other. We're either trying to get a coach that's going to be able to figure out how to unlock the beast, how to unleash the beast, or we're going to part ways and he's not part of the game plan. We're going to go get a center who can be like a Kevin Looney.
Yeah.
Guy that goes in there and does his job every day, doesn't complain, doesn't need touches.
20-something rebounds and hits. I think he had a game winner for them once and helps them win championships. Good culture guy.
He's been great. And he gets paid what? Like
a decent contract. Nothing crazy.
He doesn't get paid that much.
And probably, even though the Warriors lost this year, probably not going anywhere. I think it's safe to say. I don't know, but
3 years, 22.5, 17.5 guaranteed. So,
dude, that is like, that's cheap in terms of the NBA nowadays with how expensive the league is. I'm not a salary cap. I'm not a contract guru, but that sounds pretty damn cheap to me, man.
It's a great deal. And this is after they had won some championships. Before that, he was getting paid real small amount. I think 3 to 5.
Yep.
For, obviously NBA players, that's not a lot.
Just real quick, I want to address the comment. I don't mean to sound salty or pity, but someone said, Daniel says, too bad Sabonis wanted to play for the Kings. I remember making videos about that and people thought I was crazy. Like, oh, Domantas Sabonis? No, we don't want him. Oh boy. Now look what he's doing with the Sacramento Kings.
I remember that. That rumor was out there about getting Sabonis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember obviously Arvydas very well. Him coming over here, what was he, 30 years old when he came to the NBA with a busted back and still crucified people on the court? Oh my God, he was such a headache too.
Great passer, battled with Shaq.
Post presence. He did things on the court that made, especially our centers back then, look silly. I'm talking like the Danny Shays of the days, the Jake Sakalidis. I think he might have played against Sakalidis. Pretty sure he did.
That's
probably
a name I haven't heard in so long. Yeah.
Joe Klein.
Joe Klein is still on here.
Yeah, right. Oh, the Marley.
Yeah.
Marley commercial. But yeah, I mean, he crucified people on the court. He did things that made them look silly. So the fact that we had the opportunity to get his son, who, he doesn't have a busted back. He's in great shape.
Yeah.
I mean, Arvydas came into the league. What's that?
Didn't Sabonis make an all-NBA team like Domantas Sabonis this year?
Yeah.
And look, Howard's like, oh, Sabonis was terrible in the playoffs, unplayable. I get it, but dude, look what he did during the regular season. He'll come back next year.
Yamas.
Yeah,
yeah. Arvydas came into the league with a dad bod. That's the best way I could describe it. Like, he looked like he had a dad bod. Like, he went to the YMCA and bald and just crushed people.
I don't have Sabonis Arvydas Sabonis's career resume in front of me, but I heard he dominated in Europe before he came over. I heard he was like one of the greats.
Yeah, he didn't come to the NBA until I think he was like 30. Yeah. And he had, I think, multiple back surgeries.
Yeah. And
came in here and crushed it.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would have been nice, obviously, to have his kid.
Well, Steve, I think we've done a pretty damn good job of breaking all this down. And again, I'm sure, by next week, we'll be having different conversations. So I think this has been a great show. And again, I do appreciate your time and your effort and your dedication, especially with that great coaches segment and all the notes you took, all the great research. Might have to have you forward that to me, by the way, because that would be good to revisit. But Steve, you want to tell the people again what you do on your channel, what you got planned? I'm sure you'll be on this channel many times during the off season. Tell the people where to find you again, Suns fans. All my links are down below, but all of Steve's links are down below. I know that you're going to be doing a lot of streaming this off season, so tell the people where to find you, man.
Yeah, guys, so you can find me at ThunderSteve85 Gaming here on YouTube. I also stream, like do a dual stream to Twitch. So you can find me on both platforms. And again, I'm live streaming video games, doing video game reviews. I get obviously the latest video games that come out, play the games, do the reviews. I've been gaming since I was a kid. So since the late 80s, lifelong video gamer.
Beautiful arcade stuff in the background.
Yeah, so I'm streaming the games. That way, if you guys are interested, want to see if it's a game you might want to play, you can pop in on a live stream. I will be streaming Zelda, the new Tears of the Kingdom.
Go.
One of the highest rated video games so far of all time, which is pretty crazy. I may stream today or tomorrow. I don't know if I want to stream on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Especially
after you did this stream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyways,
takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, if you guys can check out my channel, subscribe to it. If you got any friends or family that are into video games, subscribe. I keep it clean on there.
Yep.
Try not to use any cuss words. Try to keep it PG for the kids, of course.
Well, I appreciate you, man. Again, thank you for your time and dedication. This has been a great show. Suns fans, you already know how I do it here. If it has to deal with the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to make a video about it. Even if I am late, trust me, guys, I'm fully dedicated to this channel. I am not going anywhere, Suns fans. You're going to be getting videos, YouTube shorts, live shows, special guests. Like Steve will be back on. I'm sure I'm going to get the Suns Jam session back on. You guys know it's going to be a great off season, hopefully, for the Phoenix Suns. I'm hoping for big things. And again, maybe we'll have a completely different conversation next week or in a few weeks. So try to stay positive, Suns fans. Everything will be okay. As always, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Check out all of ThunderSteve85 down below. All of his links are down below. Check out me. Follow me on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff. I love you guys. God bless you. And happy Mother's Day to all the great mothers out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, go Suns. Peace.
What's up, Suns Geek?